So for example, Grosjean's definition of bilingualism is really simple. People that use at least 2 languages in their everyday lives. The everyday part is key. So deaf people use ASL every day as they socialize and interact with other deaf people. And they use English every day as well. They use it when they read captions, for reading books, and even reading signs by the side of the road as they're driving. Now, to be clear, each language has its own role, function, purpose, and audience, and Grosjean makes that clear. We need to discuss what bilingualism actually looks like. In a classroom, you could use ASL to explain concepts while using English to use the computer, typing, and writing. It really is a very simple concept, yet there's still a lot of discussing going on about it. Some people would say, well, what about people that are hard of hearing, or people that rely on speech more than sign language? How can we use bilingualism to meet their needs? But I think the fear there really is more with ourselves, with me. How do I control the use of both languages, or how can I teach people both languages at the same time? But I don't think there's any need to be afraid of that, because people can and will pick up both languages at the same time without a problem. Yeah, I think you're right. I never have taken an ASL class. I was taught by my parents in school, by interpreters, and just interacting with my friends. Now, someone once told me that they thought bilingualism, kind of a funny word to spell, is when you use English and ASL at the same time. Could you explain why that's not an accurate definition of bilingualism? Well, keep in mind, ASL has its own structure and grammar. It's very different from ASL. English has its own word order. And ASL has that too, but it's not the same thing. People who speak and sign at the same time tend to follow what their mouth is saying. For example, they might sign something like this. That doesn't match ASL grammar or rules. When you speak English, that's what you're thinking in your mind, and it shows up in your signing. So in ASL, that sentence would probably look something more like this. Since it already has its own form, it shouldn't have to follow English. But if someone is doing SimCom, they're going to follow English anyway. The problem with that is that you will never learn ASL that way. Since we have studied English all our lives, we've become skilled in that area, and we don't need to use it with our signing. And once you really start studying ASL and learn it well, you'll find that you don't want to use SimCom, because speaking 2 languages at the same time just doesn't work.